You made a really good point, Kobe. You say you have to have your wits about you, and I think this is a film where you have to literally, it can't be on your phone and scrolling and doing other things because you'll miss key parts.
When you watch this movie, you're looking at all these little nuggets, little tells, little codes that are being sent to the people who will kind of recognise that there's racial injustice here, there's paranoia and trust that people from ethnic communities will recognise and understand. And I think it was a really interesting way of layering it and bringing it to the fore, that you're just realising, oh, this is not just your regular movie.
Hey everyone, welcome to this episode of Flixwatcher podcast. Today I'm joined by Helen.
Hi.
Sumit.
Hello.
And Chris.
Greetings.
And we're going to be talking about They Cloned Tyrone. Thank you as always to the mighty people for their mighty tunes, and thanks to Ben from Rockwood Audio for editing this podcast. Please do remember to head over to Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and also now Pocket Casts, you can do ratings. So if you listen to Pocket Casts, go there and give us a 5-star rating and a glowing review, of course. If you want to join the conversation with us, we're on Twitter at FlixWatcherPod, or on Instagram at FlixWatcher, or Threads at FlixWatcher.
Welcome to this episode of Flixwatcher podcast. Our guests today are Chris and Sumit. Over to you, please, Sumit. Say hello to our listeners and tell them a little bit more about who you are and what you do, please.
Hello, I'm Sumit, co-host of the Breaking Atoms podcast, a hip-hop podcast. It's been going on for about a good 6-7 years now, I would say. And it focuses very much on interviews, cultural moments, and we analyse hip-hop to the very last compound. We also have a brand new series called Elements, where we look at albums that have shaped and reshaped music and culture through different lenses. So our first episode is on the Notorious B.I.G., Ready to Die, looking at the human condition.
Oh, wow. What other episodes you got lined up?
For that one, I won't spoil it all, but if you listen to the end of Ready to Die, you'll get a sneak glimpse into episode 2, which is on MF Doom.
Oh, okay. Is it looking on a kind of hip-hop train of thought, or are you going wider?
It's definitely wider. It's looking at different elements and looking at the albums itself. So we're looking at particular albums and going deeper. So it's almost like an essay in audio form, but looking at the wider sociological, psychological and cultural aspects of each album.
And it's not just dead hip-hop artists, right? So it's looking a bit wider than that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Chris, who are you?
Greetings, I'm Chris. I'm co-host of the Breaking Atoms podcast, and we talk about hip-hop, we talk about life, music, politics, culture, food, and whatever is on our mind through a hip-hop lens.
Politics hasn't been, not much in politics recently, is there?
I mean, politics is a bit of a minefield, but we do appreciate how hip-hop has really, over the years, you know, it's not just a recent thing, has really brought politics into an understandable and digestible lens, and it's a great way to engage with politics if you're not too sure about what's going on and who is who. It can kind of engage you in that way, which I really enjoy. And
I follow you on LinkedIn, and you were hanging about in Cannes for a bit this summer. How was that?
I have a confession to make.
You weren't there?
I wasn't actually in Cannes.
What?
But this is the beauty of being a podcast producer. Shout out to the team at Story Things. I hosted the Caught Up on Cannes podcast, which is a daily podcast. Everything going on at the Cannes Film Festival of Creativity. And I recorded that podcast from this very room here in Northwest London. I'm in Northwest London, born and raised. I couldn't leave. I refused to leave. Bury me here.
Well, in Highgate, there's a very, very well-known cemetery, so that you can't be too far from that. We're here today to talk about your film choice, which is They Cloned Tyrone. First of all, can you tell us why you chose it? And second of all, after that, you'll have 1 minute, that's 60 seconds, in which you need to give us your synopsis.
Okay, so I picked They Cloned Tyrone simply because it was recommended to me by my former executive producer, an amazing lady by the name of Emma Stevens, who works at Unedited. So for months, she kept saying, Chris, you've got to watch They Cloned Tyrone. You've got to watch They Cloned Tyrone. And I just never got around to it. So when you amazing folks at Flixwatcher said, listen, pick a film, and I saw They Cloned Tyrone on the list, I figured, you know what, now's a good time to watch it so I could come and discuss it. And then I can text Emma and say, I finally watched it. Let's meet up and let's do another review of our own.
Nice. I find that quite a few people have picked the film for this episode, this recording, that they've just had on the list for a while and looking for a good opportunity to kind of sit down and get into it. Right, you've got 60 seconds. Timer starts now to give us your synopsis.
Okay, so, wow. They Cloned Tyrone is a Netflix film. It came out in 2023. It's like a hybrid. It's a mix of like sci-fi, mystery, blaxploitation, kind of whodunit, comedy, can't forget comedy, and it's directed by Juel Taylor. So the movie follows three people. There's Fontaine, played by John Boyega, who's a drug dealer. There's Slick Charles, played by Jamie Foxx. He's a pimp. And then there's Yo-Yo, the sex worker, played by Teyonah Parris. And what happens is they stumble upon a government conspiracy while they're investigating a series of strange events that happen in their local neighborhood. And as they dig deeper, they realize that the community is being like manipulated through mind control experiments, which we'll get into later. And then there's a big sinister plot that unravels in the film. So it's a really wicked mix of like humor, social commentary, themes of like oppression, systemic oppression, and just the exploitation of marginalized communities.
Nice.
Very good.
Very good.
It was. I'll just let the timer run there because that was a great synopsis for a film, which is like, there's a lot of levels here. So, bravo to you.
Thank you.
Sumit, had you seen this before? What were your thoughts?
No, I actually hadn't. And it was one of those things that was on my list. And then when I looked it up and I was like, government conspiracy, I'm in. Anything to do with conspiracy, I'm in. And obviously the actors, John Boyega, Jamie Foxx I love. I think he's amazing. And obviously having done a bit of, a look up on the movie and saw Slick Charles, it made me immediately think of The Boondocks, which was a classic Adult Swim cartoon. I was like, I'm in. Incredible movie. So I was glad that Chris chose that. So it allowed me to watch it and I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was amazing.
Nice. Helen, did you see it before? Had you heard of it before?
I'd heard of it, but only in a kind of roundup of the films of the year. I had no idea that it'd been released or what it was about or who was in it. It was one of those films that felt like they just didn't bother to market it in any way. So yeah, I'm obviously intrigued by all of the concepts. It's kind of got like the Groundhog Day thing going on as well.
Yeah.
And yeah, like a pretty stacked cast. So it was like, how come this film had just kind of appeared and nothing had been said? So yeah, I think there's a lot going on. There's a lot that I really liked. Whether or not I feel...
What did you really like, Helen?
I really love Jamie Foxx. It sounds like he was just kind of like having the time of his life, and the setup, I was really into it. The kind of like element of just trying for your brain to try and work out what was going on.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's and I don't know, I think maybe this is my brain, but it really reminded me of Sorry to Bother You. And my brain was trying to kind of look at it like, compare it to that when I was watching it, so that I kind of got a bit caught up in that, and I was like, well, they're sort of digging at the similar kind of themes, kind of consumerism, manipulation, those kind of things all together. So yeah, there's lots of things that I liked. There's someone who's quite famous in it who kind of appears part way through the end and you're like, what?
We can give spoilers.
I'll let Chris talk about his performance, which was a bit of a surprise. But yeah, I'm really happy that you picked it and I finally have seen it and we get to chat about it and tell people that it exists, because I hadn't heard of it at all.
Who was that cameo, Chris, that Helen's alluding to, Coily?
Oh, God. Kiefer Sutherland. Yes. He plays the character Nixon. He's one of the ops. He's one of the people that have come to take over the local neighborhood and eradicate some black folk. Very interesting.
I didn't pick Kiefer Sutherland to do that, to be fair, to be op of the black folk. He's Jack Bauer, essentially, in my head. Why would he want to be an op for black folk? I found it strange, but it was good.
He was an op. When I saw him, I was like, oh, wow. That's interesting. I wasn't expecting to see him because I don't read credits or synopsis before I watch something. Okay. And I'm like, I've never really seen this kind of performance from him. I thought it was interesting.
I think he is in the credits, so I was expecting him, or maybe just in my cursory digging of the plot. For me, I definitely knew about this film, but it's just one of those things that was like on my list of things to watch, and other things just keep on getting piled on top of it, and there's not enough time. And I know a lot of people who really, really enjoyed it and said it's a big film to watch. I think there's also the layer of it's not just a simple watch. You need to like have your wits about you a bit before you start watching it. So I think that's probably one of the reasons I never got around to do it. But it's a lot of fun, and it was, as Helen said, the initial kind of premise when you start it is like, it's Groundhog Day, it's Source Code, it's all these kind of loop films, but then it's quickly distilled that it's not that thing, and you kind of have these three modern day Black American stereotypes which you're following, each playing their way through the film.
Role play, isn't it? It's like almost like a player game, and they have to choose the outcomes, and if they pick the wrong one, then it restarts.
Yeah. I love seeing John Boyega. Well, it's not just John Boyega. I love seeing any British actor in American films, and Americans not knowing that they're British. So John Boyega is always a good one. I'm struggling. Emily Blunt is always fun to see him. There's so many, but I always...
Damson Idris, Idris Elba.
It's funny you mention that, because when I was watching it and I was like, John Boyega, I know him, but he played the role so well, like I forgot for a moment he was British. It reminded me of Idris Elba in The Wire and Damson Idris in Snowfall. It's like, if you don't know who they are, you would think they were American. And I think, as you probably know, as for an acting job, that's a really, really good performance. I was thoroughly impressed by John Boyega.
And you said about Jamie Foxx, who's been, since I saw him in Ray, he was like instantly one of my favourite people. And his music's good as well.
Absolutely, yeah.
What do you guys think about the actual storyline? Because it was quite intricate, and I know kudos to you, Chris, for peeling back the onion there, because it was, in 60 seconds, that's a lot to unfurl, I should say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think intricate is a great word, and it's putting it, nicely, because I had to watch this a couple of times.
Oh, really?
And I had to rewind a couple of scenes, because, you made a really good point, Kobe, and you say you have to have your wits about you. And I think this is a film where you have to literally, it can't be on your phone and scrolling and doing other things because you'll miss key parts. But yeah, I found it to be quite intellectually challenging. I appreciated the dark humour, and not to put myself in the story, I think a lot of the humour wasn't necessarily told in a joke. I don't think anyone really told a joke, but it was still quite funny. It reminded me of the Vince Staples show. No jokes were being told, but it's so funny. And yeah, there's a lot of stereotypes in there that they kind of poked fun at, which I really enjoyed. We'll get into that, the whole fried chicken. And there was one scene in particular which made me punch the air with joy.
Go on, say it. There's no need to be coy.
It's the scene in the church where they're singing the gospel music.
Yes.
I grew up in church. I'm a church boy. Do you know what I mean? No matter where I go in this world, I'm a church boy. And when the gospel song turned into Juvenile, back that ass up. Listen. Listen, yeah, I know that's a contradiction in itself, right? A church boy, Juvenile. I love Juvenile, love him. So when that happened, it was such a cultural nod. And watching the film when Juvenile did the tiny desk at that kind of cultural kind of moment just kind of converged for me. I thought it was awesome. Anything with a pimp in there, good or bad, I enjoy that. Sugar-free. What's the name of the pimp in Boondocks, bro?
A pimp named Slickback. Yeah.
A pimp named Slickback. Yeah. Anything with pimps, I enjoy pimps. Jamie Oliver was a great pimp. And I really loved Yo-Yo's character. It's got that hip-hop feel to it as well. Because I thought Yo-Yo was kind of a nod to the rapper. Maybe I was just, forcing a square into a triangle. But yeah, overall, the social commentary in They Cloned Tyrone really shone through. As a black man who loves fried chicken and loves grape soda, I have...
Where'd you get grape soda from in Northwest London?
Listen, bruv. I know I said I'm from Northwest London, yeah? I'm from a place called Harlesden.
Right.
Right? Very, very black community, or at least it was very West Indian. There's grape soda on every corner, my man. Next time I see you, I'm going to bring you a can of grape soda.
Well, see you maybe at the Independent Podcast Awards, maybe?
Yeah, I'm coming with grape soda. I'm coming with grape soda. So yeah, overall, I love the social commentary, the fact that it was so tongue-in-cheek, but so dark at the same time. It touched on so many things from, racially motivated police murders, dietary habits. It touched on the spiritual side with the church scene, science, controlling behavior, oppressed communities, fighting back. There was a lot to unpack, and I'm going to watch it again after this as well.
What do you guys make of the whole actual cloning aspect of things? Because that's always like a freaky thing. Whenever I see it in Star Wars, the cloning they do there, it's never done altruistically, is it? It's always for nefarious means.
It is, yeah. For me, I do enjoy the cloning aspect, but that part of the story spoke to me in a different way, where it said, it stripped black communities of any kind of individualism, any kind of uniqueness. You're all the same. We can just remake you. And I think I look at the music industry, I look at the entertainment industry, and I just look at the world at large, how certain communities, particularly those of us who are darker skinned, how you can just have your whole identity kind of stripped away from you and remade and repackaged in the eyes and the image of the person that stripped it away from you. I thought it was quite powerful.
Yeah, I think the idea of a movie and cloning and people instantly think about AI, but this is about what it means to be truly free. And again, for marginalized communities, it can be very difficult, where you can me and Chris breaking out come from hip hop culture, and there's always a pervading conversation about black culture being stolen or taken or culturally appropriated and things like that. So when you watch this movie, you're looking at all these little nuggets, little tells, little codes that are being sent to the people who will kind of recognize that there's racial injustice here, there's paranoia and trust that people from ethnic communities will recognize and understand. And I think it was a really interesting way of layering it and bringing it to the fore, that you're just realizing, this is not just your regular movie. And speaking to the cast, and the cast were all great, and with every movie they'll look at the script, and I think they probably looked at that and went, this is a great movie to tell the story, that the message we want to get across. This is the best movie to do that.
Hey, I'm Ryan Reynolds. Recently, I asked Mint Mobile's legal team if big wireless companies are allowed to raise prices due to inflation. They said yes. And then when I asked if raising prices technically violates those onerous 2-year contracts, they said, what the f*** are you talking about, you insane Hollywood ass f- So to recap, we're cutting the price of Mint Unlimited from $30 a month to just $15 a month. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes. See details.
Is there anything else you guys want to say before we head to the scores?
I really appreciated the way They Cloned Tyrone, how it kind of just flipped certain stereotypes about black movies on its head. I thought the characters, the dynamics between them are really cool. Fontaine, on the surface was a drug dealer, but then when he starts to get into the murder of his little brother, and you see those tender moments of him taking his brother for a drive, it really humanized him. Yo-Yo, very, very shrewd, resourceful, took on a leadership role in many different scenarios. I really, really appreciated that. And, how it took the different genres like sci-fi, comedy, mystery, social commentary, and did this really cool mashup. At Story Things, we call it a super format, when you take different formats and put them together. And it's actually inspired me, what can we do as Breaking Atoms going forward, where we can take these different genres and put them together and make something unique or even different. And most importantly, it was just challenging. It required multiple watches, rewinds, reading articles, going on Twitter, all that kind of stuff.
You went in deep for this.
You have to, because it's one of those things. And I'm really looking forward to having a further conversation with my friends who have watched this many moons ago about, my thoughts and stuff. So yeah, very, 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 very clever. In Jamaican culture, we call it high chess. So if you like really expensive and intelligent conversation and buying nice things, you're high chest. So I'm a very high-chested person, innit? So I like nice things. So this is a very high-chest film because it requires a certain level of intellect.
Yeah. And I would just add just very quickly, as this is a film podcast, got to talk about the cinematography just a little bit. A lot of it is much like the movie and the message it's trying to give. There's a lot of darkness within it. The underground is very dark. The key moments or key scenes that happen outside of the church, which is, it's daylight, it's bright. And again, that's a kind of metaphor in itself, being the church and being bright. But most of the other scenes where, Tyrone gets shot or he does a setup and all those things that happen is usually in the dark or in the evening. Again, bringing that whole darkness into the Glen and just creating a space and accents where you can't go there from one place or one place. It was kind of neutral. I think that was would have been a very difficult thing to execute from a director and producer point of view. But John Boyega doesn't have an accent where you go, that's from Atlanta or that's from London or that's from somewhere. It's kind of neutral enough to go, it's in America somewhere. Yeah. I think that was a very nice touch that they did as well in the movie.
I want to add one more part about the music supervision as well. It was absolutely superb. The selections, yo. When I saw the title, I'm like, they're going to have to use Tyrone, Erykah Badu. You can't not do that. So the whole film, I'm thinking, where is Erykah Badu called Tyrone? They didn't drop it until the credits, and they cloned Tyrone. They did a remake. Oh my! Me and my wife lost it. We lost for the first time in a long time. I'm actually going to go and buy a soundtrack after watching a film.
Oh, really? Nice.
Yeah. I need that Clone Tyrone. I need that.
You need that version.
I need it.
Well, let's head to the scores, guys.
I'm Sam Clements, host of the 90 Minutes or Less Film Festival, another podcast in the Stripped Media family, a podcast that celebrates movies under 90 minutes long. Each episode, I'm joined by a special guest who selects a movie to join our prestigious lineup. Past guests have included fellow Stripped Media family members Martin and Sam from Song by Song, and Kobe from Flixwatcher, and Dave from The Wire Stripped. Search for us now on the app you're currently listening to this podcast, or join us at 90minfilmfest.com.
Welcome to our Flixwatcher scores. All of the scores are out of 5. You can have decimal places if you wish, and we'll start with you, please, Chris, because you picked it with your recommendability.
Overall, They Cloned Tyrone, starring John Boyega, Jamie Foxx and Teyonah Parris, out of 5, I am going to give it a 4.0.
Nice. Any reason in particular?
A 4.0. Why I didn't give it a 5?
No, any reason why you didn't go 5? Why you gave it more than a 3?
Because I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going by old Source reviews. You remember the Source magazine when they used to give 5 mics? Yeah. So when you had 4, it meant definite satisfaction. So I'm kind of applying the Source mic system to this. I think if you enjoy a good storyline, you like to think, if you like to challenge and also like to be challenged, if you want your own worldview to be put under the microscope as well and your own biases and stereotypes to be brought to the surface for further examination, I think that this is the type of film that will do that.
Submit.
4. I don't need to put the 0.0. It's unnecessary. It's a 4. It's 4 mics. 4 mics. Strong 4. And just because it's not the best movie I've ever seen, and the one I'm like, yo, I need a shot. But it's like Chris said, it's something that you want to share with your friends, talk to them about it, and go, look, and compare notes in terms of what they saw and what they got out of it. So I would give it a strong 4.
Helen.
Yeah, I'm also going to have to go with the definite satisfaction 4. I love that. I get a slight easier every time for 4s. Yeah, I mean, I didn't think I can add that much to what you've already said, but I think for me, I also had to read loads of reviews and try and work out what was going on afterwards. And I think that took away a little bit of the viewing experience for me. But if it's on your watch list, bump it up, get it to the top. Watch it, let us know what you think of it. And yeah, I think I touched on it. I think it tries to do it a little bit too much. There's too many genres in there. Maybe if it had moved one away, it might have been just a bit more tighter. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot going on and it'll have you thinking for days.
Yeah, I'm going to go for, let's do a clean sweep on the 4. Yeah, there's a lot of things going on there, and it kind of made my brain melt a bit in a way. And a lot of the time I was kind of thinking, so what are you actually doing, film? What are you doing? As well as enjoying it, I'm like, oh, now they're being, this is like turned into a zombie bit where they're being chased by all the people in the community, and then suddenly they stop, and I was like, okay, so, right, fine, let's just, so in some ways you have to let it wash over you, but also you need to be paying attention. So I think it's going to be tough for some people to just absorb that and watch that as a film with that kind of explanation. Pay attention, but also ignore it, and don't worry about it. So, repeat viewing score. Chris, you've said you've seen it twice already.
Yes, I have.
After not seeing it before. So, how does that affect your repeat viewing score?
I would still give it a solid 4, and I think you've probably highlighted without even realising probably why I don't give it a 5. There was a lot going on. I felt sometimes that my concentration was being pulled in too many different directions. So, maybe, less is more in this sense, but it's still enjoyable. There's still something you can pull from it regardless of what kind of genres or films you like. So it's definitely, for me, a solid 4.
Sumit.
I'm going to be a contrarian and say 3. I'm going for a 3 for a repeat because it is tough. It's a heavy watch at times, and I would probably need to space it out before I watch it again. As much as I enjoyed it, I still need a bit of more of a gap. I can't kind of watch it within another week of it also. Just how my brain's wired, really.
Helen.
Yeah, I'm also going to go for a 3. Kind of like listening to all your takes on it and my takes on it as well. I'm like, I probably should watch it again, but the 2-hour runtime is probably going to put me off from watching it again soon. So yeah, I think it's probably going to be one of those that on a rewatch, you'll be like, oh, okay, that kind of clicks into place. But yeah, when it's like 2 hours to watch something you've already seen or something new that I've not seen yet. Da, da, da. And that's, my brain's like, oh, shiny new thing. So yeah, I'm also on the 3s.
I'm going to 2.8 here. I definitely need to watch it again. And I need to do some digging before watching it again. And at that point, well, I decide whether I watch it for a third, fourth, fifth time afterwards. Yeah, I would definitely recommend watching it, but it's not. I don't think it's going to be at the top of the rewatch pile. Small screen score. Chris.
Small screen.
And let me know at any point if you want an explanation of these scores.
Yeah, I think I need an explanation.
So small screen is how suited is it to watch on Netflix on your iPad or phone upwards to home?
No, hell no. No, we're not doing that. You can't watch this film on a small... You can't do that. Look, Sumit basically told you...
So hold on a second. Small screen means even including your TV at home. So how does it work for Netflix? I.e., do you need to see this in the cinema? In which case, if you've got a low small screen score or you've got a decent TV or setup, how does it work there?
Yeah, if you've got a decent TV or setup, so like, I'm not flossing out here like that. I got like a 42-inch and it worked fine. So out of 5, I would probably say maybe 3.5. I wouldn't recommend watching this on a small screen just because of what Sumit said about the cinematography and some parts being really, really dark. And also the concentration level that's required.
Yeah.
Get yourself a nice cup of grape soda. Yeah. Get some chicken. Sit down in front of your TV. And if you need to split it in half, like Helen said, it's 2 hours. Split it in half. Have a little intermission for yourself. I don't know, man. Get some plantain or something. And
Can
just
we not
watch
have
it
some
and
dal,
enjoy it.
maybe? Some
yes,
dal.
please. Yes.
Some black dal,
yes.
please. House dal, that'd be nice.
We can do that. But yes, I would say 3.5. Definitely watch it on a relatively respectful screen and just be kind to yourself. Respect yourself.
Sumit.
Yeah, I would go for a 3.5. I think that's a fair metric for small screen. Doesn't need to be seen in the cinema. You can watch it on a TV.
Helen.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it wasn't fair that I didn't feel like we were even given a chance to see this. Did this even get a cinematic release? Like, I didn't see any trailers for it or anything.
I don't know. I know it was a Netflix own or Netflix bought in one. So if cinematic would have been low. And I do remember when it came out.
Because me saying that, I would probably have seen the trailer for this and thought, that kind of sounds fun and interesting, and would have liked to have made the trip to the cinema to do that so that you can support films like this being made again. But I don't feel as though we've given a choice. So I think it's fine to watch at home, although I probably did mess around on my phone a little bit more than I should have done. So had I gone to see it at the cinema, I would have been a bit more refrained on that one. So I'm going to give it a 4. I think it's fine, but it would have been nice to have had the chance.
I'm going 3.1. I think I would have enjoyed it more in the cinema. I think like I say, you talked about the soundtrack, which brings you along. I think the concentration, the focus that you're locked in on it. So it's not necessarily what's on the screen, but I think it's the whole kind of atmosphere. And I think if you're in with a good crowd with watching it as well, I think the collective experience would have been fun with this one as well. So that's why I'm going to knock it down a couple of notches, 3.1. Engagement score, Chris. Again, if you need an explanation, let us know.
Engagement, I'll say maybe, God, it's so layered. I would definitely give it maybe a 3.5. I'll give it a 3.5 just because I think to get the most out of this, it's going to require multiple watches. And I think you also need that supplementary experience. So that's like the conversations with other people, the music and all that. I think it's more than just the film. It's the social commentary and stuff and the music and put it all together. But engagement-wise, it's a lot to take in. It's a project, I think. It's definitely a project.
I mean, it's not that bad. It's not
homework.
No, it's a project.
Yeah. Homework for everyone.
It's not like silence. It's not like...
No, it's a project. It's a project because because there is so much going on. And for me, I'm a deep thinker. So I started to look at myself and, I mentioned the biases and the stereotypes that all jump out. Me and my wife were having conversations about stuff going on. It was a mess. It was a mess. So 3.5 for engagement.
Sumit.
I'm going to go for a 3. I'll go for a 3.
All right. Any advance on 3? Any discussion point with 3, or that's just where your heart goes?
It's where the gut instinct goes. When I watched it, I probably reached my phone once. And just that moment, it kind of lost me before it started kicking in again. Before they plotted the plan, it was just before they plotted the plan and they made the plan for, spoiler alert for those who haven't seen it, but we can talk about it. But it's where Tyrone, he gets shot and they do that whole, I was in after that. But just prior to that scene, it lost me for a bit, but that was it.
Helen?
Yeah, I've already said that I was a bit naughty and had my phone out. I think when this film is like at its most engaging is when like the three main characters are all together and they're all bouncing off each other's different styles and energies. And then there's a part where they get split up for a bit. And I think that's when the kind of energy dips a little bit and it starts going into like its own mythology a little bit. And that's when it kind of loses me. So yeah, it's like when they're all together, it's like this mega gang and there's so much energy and you're just like, what's going to happen? But then when it starts to try and bring in its mythology and send them off in different directions, that's when the engagement dipped for me. So yeah, I'm going to go with 3 as well, I think.
Yeah, it's going to be in 3 area for me. You definitely need to pay attention more so than I had the capacity to do so when I was watching it. And that's probably why I need to rewatch it again. And I think it was, as I said before, that, there's then another kind of genre or storytelling method kind of came in. I was like, really? So yeah, let's go for 3.2. Let's go for 3.2. Why not? And that gives us an overall score of 3.47500, which is decent.
It's pretty good, yeah.
Yeah. Recommendability score of 4. So it's definitely, we're all saying like, guys, recommend it to people, have a watch, but we're all recognizing there's a few places we would have liked it to, stick the landing maybe. Everyone, if you don't follow us already, we're on Twitter at FlixWatcherPod. We're also on Threads at FlixWatcher and Instagram at FlixWatcher. But we do put a tweet asking you guys to interact with us and tell us what your thoughts about the film. So look out for a tweet saying something similar to, we're reviewing They Cloned Tyrone with Chris and Sumit from Breaking the Atoms. Or Break the Atoms is your Twitter account. Have you seen it? Tell us your thoughts and your score out of 5 stars for an on-air shout-out on FlixWatcher. So we had 1 response. Chris, have you got this in front of you? Do you want to read it out?
I do, yes. So at Lofty SNDS, Lofty SNDS, he says, oodles of fun and inventiveness. Boyega just oozes class. We really need to see him in more films.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's been in quite a few films. How could you, when he said John Boyega, I was thinking, have you seen any Star Wars recently? But hey.
Is he still in that? Sorry,
Well, he's not been announced in the latest Star Wars where Daisy Ridley's coming back. But
boo.
You don't know. He
called out a few people after the last Star Wars. I don't know if they're going to call him back.
He said it with his chest, so I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know if they're going to call him back.
Well, maybe he can be released to do more films like this and
possibly.
Absolutely.
Right. Well, guys, thank you very much for joining. Thank you very much, Chris, for bringing us They Cloned Tyrone. Can you finish off by telling us and the listeners where we can find you guys online? And we'll say goodbye to everyone who's listening.
Yeah, so you can find us being myself, Chris Mitchell, and Sumit Sharma, Breaking Atoms Podcast. We are on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Break the Atoms. And yeah, we're also on TikTok. Breaking Atoms. I say it like that. It's just, I was told I need to be on TikTok.
Do we need to do dances? Is what I need to do. I need to do dances now?
I mean, yeah, we need to manufacture something. But yeah, Break the Atoms all over Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And you can listen to our weekly podcast, Breaking Atoms, wherever you get your podcasts.
Nice. And also you got your pod production company as well, which you're spitting out some fine pods.
Yes. We do a number of productions, a number of series. Our first one was way back in 2021. That's what put us on the map. We went from podcasters to podcast producers. So it's something that we're extremely proud of, and we feed our families and pay our bills by producing podcasts. So make sure you check out our new series called Elements, where we look at hip-hop albums from a social, historical, philosophical, and intellectual lens. The first episode is on the seminal classic Ready to Die by the Notorious B.I.G., which celebrated its 30th anniversary a few weeks ago. And we've got MF Doom coming up in the next episode. So make sure you check that out.
Guys, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure. Oh, Sumit, do you want to say anything? Or has Chris wrapped up for you in a nice little bow?
He's done what he needed to do. I'm good. Thank you for having us. Thank you for both.
Thank you so much
for having us.
Cheers,
Thanks
guys.
for coming on.
Bye.
Bye. Enjoyed this episode of Flixwatcher podcast? Why not leave us a 5-star review on iTunes? You can also follow us at FlixWatcherPod on Twitter, and we're at FlixWatcher on Instagram. Thanks as always to the mighty people for their mighty tunes and Rockwood Audio's editing skills. If you're looking to get your podcast edited as sweet as this, get in touch with Rockwood, ROKK Wood Audio. Tell them Flixwatcher sent you.
You just heard a Stripped Media production.